From new tech to any old iron, Tim Pilbeam takes the Swarovski DS Gen 2 for a spin.
227 metres away. It's taking 0.31 of a second to get there. No. Yeah, so
How to make your rifle shooting relaxed, top tips on rifle hold, trigger pull and breathing with Josh McKeown. We are giving away ISOTunes hearing protection, the ISOTunes Sport Defy Slim electronic headphones priced at £109.99. We have news, we have hunting YouTube. Welcome to Fieldsports Britain. Looking at him, you wouldn't trust this man with anything more technical than blue tack. But Swarovski has loaned Mr. Pilbeam their very clever DS Gen 2 scope.
what it does, very simplistically, is that it calculates your point of aim. So all the guesswork is taken out.
This is what you see through it. It's designed to deliver data, information that will help you take that shot. Before we go stalking with it, Tim's going to plink some targets at different ranges, putting his trust in the Swarovski technology.
I've got one jack and it's 94 metres away, so the actual dot is actually in the middle of the reticle, so we just take that in this heavy wind. Okay, that's a dead muntjac. We swing around to my left here, we've got a roe deer here. So the roe deer is 227 metres away, and it's telling me on the point of impact the actual velocity of the bullet is 653 metres a second. It's taking 0.31 of a second to get there.
No.
Yeah, so it's probably about 6 inches of drop here. Okay, let's take the shot then. Bang on. Okay, so okay, let's move across here. This one here, I've got another roe deer, and it's telling me it is 299 metres away. Okay, and the speed of the bullet at the point of impact is 612 metres per second, and the actual bullet takes 0.42 of a second to get there. Okay, it's interesting stuff, I says.
Using the Swarovski app, Tim chooses what data he wants displayed in the scope. It's specific to his choice of bullet, the range, and the atmospheric conditions. To help illustrate the point, we take the scope minus a rifle and point it at park deer. At 92 metres, there is only one reticle on show, as we are zeroed at 100 metres. At 236 metres, the second red reticle comes into play. It needs to come up on the buck, compensating for the bullet drop. Feeling confident with the DS Gen 2, it's time to use it in the field. He's had the scope on the Merkel Helix for the last few months. He's helping Kai build up venison reserves for his catering business, Game and Flames.
So down the bottom there is probably 300 metres, I think. So therefore, if you're taking that shot, it just does it all for you. But if you go anything less than 200 metres, there's probably not a lot in it.
We blank on the first farm, and the second farm. Then, passing a gateway en route home,
Don't move, David.
Tim spots a herd of fallow close to where we'd been 2 hours earlier.
Oh, I love seeing them running.
Not in that direction.
Pop up the top there and see what happens. Still not safe there at the moment. Yep. Yeah, follow the. I'm going to be shooting the calf in the back, the fawn. If it stops, don't. 220 metres at the moment. Mum still can't get in the wood. Oh, bugger. Okay, he's going down. That was an interesting stalk. We saw them from the road, and I just waited. They saw us anyway, and they just darted up the top there. And we thought, just chance of luck. I'd find fallow deer either absolutely stupid or they completely and utterly know what's going on, very wily. And so we just chance of luck. We went around outside. They can see us all the time, but they couldn't get in the wood for some reason. They couldn't jump over that bit of wire. So doe and its fawn came running down. We just waited, and the doe jumped into the wood, and we managed to catch the fawn just before it went in the wood. So, and that was 213 metres away. So, you know, it's taking the guesswork away. It's taking, you know, some people would actually dial back a wee bit on it. Some people just hold over. It's up to you. So either holding over, dialing in, or with the Swarovski DS, it just tells me exactly whereabouts the point of aim is going to be. Very clever bit of kit. Well, the black reticle was sitting about there, and my red reticle was obviously about 3 or 4 inches on the animal down, but it was just there, boom. It did it for me, so it took the guesswork out of it. It's exactly the same as dialing. If you dial down, it's doing it for you. On the Swarovski DS, it shows you whereabouts to actually aim the rifle, the point of aim. But yeah, nice youngster.
This one for Mr. Bryn.
Next year he needs about 40 to 50 animals to keep him going through the summer. So we're just at the moment just taking the deer out, put him in the larder, processing them, and he's just putting them into his chillers, into his freezers for next year.
Now I've seen this being carted around.
To extract the deer, we swap technology for innovation.
Finally.
Yes, this is.
You've just attacked some poor child.
Yeah, this is my friend's actually. I must make one myself. This is my deer barrow, and basically a couple of mountain bike wheels made out of bits of bicycle frame, I think. But it's very, very light, and also it folds up, so it goes in the back of a Defender, and it sits on the back of in a tray. But you know, it's so manoeuvrable, and also I can get. Well, I've had three does in there, but it'd take 2 days quite easily.
Tim also produces a new piece of kit to help keep him spotlessly clean.
These are gauntlets from a young man called Mark from Deer Tray Covers.
I think it's important when you've got such an expensive sweatshirt. You know what I mean? I mean, look at it. I mean, what is it? Prada?
Oh, definitely. It's definitely farm. It's a farm sweatshirt.
Yeah. So
it's got.
I mean, thank goodness you've got the gauntlet.
I know. Yeah. Just save that. Yes.
Seatbelt.
Yeah, just hold everything there. There's nothing worse than the heads or the legs getting stuck in the wheels, so I just tend to have a strap here. It does happen, and when you're halfway up a hill and you've got a leg stuck in a wheel, it's kind of...
there's nothing worse.
So I just tend to strap it all down, keep it nice and secure.
Today has shown that hunting kit comes in all shapes and sizes. Tim could have taken the shot on this fawn by holding over, manually compensating for bullet drop. Likewise, he could have dragged this deer out through a freshly muck-spread field. This morning, we're spoiled for choice. For more information about the Swarovski DS Gen 2, go to swarovskioptic.com. Sadly, the deer trolley is a one-off, but if you want to buy a pair of the gauntlets, check out Deer Tray Covers on Facebook. Thank you, Tim. Now to our very own muck spreader. It's David on the Fieldsports Channel News Stump.
This is Fieldsports Channel News. An alarming trend is emerging, with British police deploying armed officers to confiscate legally held firearms. New guidelines from the Home Office in November have now led to dozens of shooters losing their guns. Derbyshire Rural Crime Team proudly displayed confiscated guns in a photo on Facebook, though it later admitted that this is a stock photo from a separate incident. Despite shooters' blameless records, Devon and Cornwall police are sending armed officers to shooters' homes in order to confiscate their guns. In an authoritarian reaction to police failings over the Plymouth shooting in August, reasons that firearms officers now give for the confiscations include a sleeping pills prescription 10 years ago, unchecked allegations following a divorce 5 years ago, and an unchecked allegation that a licence holder had been involved in a fight in a town he'd never visited. Local shoot syndicate captain Paul Cox from Cornwall had his home raided on Monday night by armed police, scaring his children and his neighbours.
I just couldn't process it. I was just sort of numb with, what have I done wrong? I haven't got a speeding ticket. I haven't asked the policeman. I said, why have my guns being taken? And he said, it's to do with the McKeown incident, and there's a review of all licence holders, and you've been flagged up as not suitable for holding a licence or carrying a firearm.
Northern Irish fox hunting is to continue after Antis lost a vote to ban it.
The second stage of the Hunting of Wild Mammals Bill is not agreed. The bill falls.
Thanks to support from both sides of the political divide in Northern Ireland, MLAs at Stormont voted to throw out John Blair's private members' bill to ban fox hunting, trail hunting and even failure to stop your dog from chasing a squirrel. BBC News reporters were left red-faced after reporting that the ban would go through. Meanwhile, hunters and shooters gathered at Stormont for the launch of a book celebrating Irish hunting, the brainchild of Albert Titterington, the man behind the Irish Game Fair. Irish Country Sports, A Heritage is the first major publication to chart and examine the traditions, history and development of country sports across the whole of Ireland. And it includes a section on Fieldsports Channel. Albert is hosting a live video event about Irish country sports on Sunday. Link in the description below. Gamekeepers have been at the heart of the Storm Arwen rescue operation. With the storm knocking out power for tens of thousands of households in the north of England and Scotland for more than a week, the clear-up has stretched resources for power companies, the fire and police service. Gamekeepers, however, were first on the scene to help clear debris, with many facing devastation to their own shoots. The destruction included the rifle range at Thirlston Castle, Lauder.
The first port of call is the fire brigade and the emergency services, but when you've got gamekeepers on the ground with skills and expertise, they know the local area, that they've got the kit and the equipment to get out there, these are people that should be used and celebrated.
Rural groups are urging peers in the House of Lords to support an anti-poaching bill aimed at illegal dog work. The proposals will give the police and the courts more power to disrupt people from using lurchers on hares and other wildlife. The amendment to the new crime bill would increase penalties for illegal dog work, allow the courts to disqualify offenders from owning or keeping dogs, and allow the police to recover kennelling costs for dogs that have been seized. The Countryside Alliance, National Farmers Union and the Country Land and Business Association are behind the move. The anti-trophy hunting lobby is desperate to keep its trophy ban bill alive. The Mail on Sunday carried a splash promising that the government would soon be making a ban on trophy imports into law. The Royal Mint has scrapped a National Trust commemorative coin. Following its ban on trail hunting, the National Trust is facing a barrage of complaints. Now the Royal Mint has severed ties with it over a fundraising commemorative coin for its 125th anniversary, calling the charity a somewhat troubled and political organisation. This week, the National Trust's poor management of a nature reserve in the south of England saw it catch fire. Studland and Godlingston Heath had been described as the largest expanse of unspoiled lowland heath to survive in Dorset. Wild Justice has had a tough week. Its lawyers lost a High Court bid for a judicial review of DEFRA's Muirburn rules, which DEFRA now says it plans to review next spring. To top it off, Wild Justice's in-house newspaper, The Guardian, carried a story about the conservation work for hen harriers done on the Swinton estate in Yorkshire. It highlights the 24 successful hen harrier nests in England, which fledged 84 chicks in 2021, the highest number since records began in 2002. 19 of those nests were on grouse moors. In the article, Natural England's lead advisor on hen harriers, Stephen Murphy, says of Swinton head keeper Gary Taylor, what he's done for harriers, words can't describe. Europe's ammunition manufacturers are waking up to the possibility of a complete ban on lead ammo. The manufacturers say that the European Chemicals Agency underestimates the financial damage its proposals for a ban will do. They estimate a ban will cost up to €4 billion and more than 16,000 jobs could be lost, with a further €1.4 billion to be met by EU taxpayers. The industry currently records a revenue of nearly €6 billion a year and employs nearly 22,000 people. It's open season on bison in Yellowstone National Park. Tags are to be made available for 900 animals, and if hunters don't shoot them, they'll be sent to slaughter. The park has more than 5,000 bison, which routinely leave Yellowstone and head north to Montana each winter, raising concerns that the animals could spread brucellosis to cattle. though there's no documented cases of bison spreading brucellosis to livestock in the wild. Thanks to Mark Corney for that story. A US politician has released the perfect gun rights Christmas card. Republican Congressman Thomas Massey sent out a picture of all his family armed to the teeth. Naturally, it made the newspapers. New Zealand's deer stalkers are alarmed by the government's direction on deer culling. The New Zealand Conservation Authority has released an agenda item called Ramping Up Wild Animal Management. The New Zealand Conservation Authority is the body that advises the Minister of Conservation and the Director General of Conservation on conservation priorities. The New Zealand Deer Stalkers Association says the topic is to be discussed behind closed doors, without reference to them or the Game Animal Council. And finally, the perfect dog walking job. Dogs are keeping alfresco diners outside Sydney Opera House free of seagulls. A British dog walking and dog daycare company, Mad Dogs and Englishmen, have been contracted to maintain its patrols for another 2 years, using 12 specially trained border collies and kelpies. The contract's worth £100,000 a year, which has drawn criticism from politicians. Thanks to Richard Taylor for the story. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stuck in the stories, fishing for fact.
Thank you, David. And that is truly wonderful news about fox hunting in Northern Ireland. Though we must not be complacent, it does look like some of the voting was more political than common sense, so expect this one to come back in the near future. Today I'm proudly wearing my Glens of Antrim Foxhounds hoodie. Well done everyone there for fighting such an impressive battle against this intolerant bill. Now, Field Sports Nation, it's still there, and if you are not already a supporter, it's waiting for you to join. If you are a supporter, thanks very much. Your competition prize this week is ISOTunes hearing protection priced at £109.99. Watch last night's Field Sports Extra to find out how to enter that prize draw, and you will be getting Field Sports Extra via YouTube, Facebook, Patreon or email. All of them ways to join the Field Sports Nation. Click on the link in the description below. Next, more ballistic tips, basic rifle skills with Josh McKeown at Braces of Bristol's Rifle Range.
In this segment, we are going to have a look at some different shooting techniques, some methods to make your shooting a lot more relaxed and stable. We're going to have a look at how your trigger pull can affect your accuracy, how things like your breathing and heart rate can also have a massive effect on how well you shoot. How you actually hold the rifle and bring it up to bear can have a difference on how successfully you can shoot and land hits on your chosen target. It also has a lot to do with the distances you are shooting at and obviously your choice of ammunition and your scope. But most of these techniques will be universal between air rifles and rimfire, centerfire rifles, in that if you can control your trigger pull, control your breathing and your heart rate before you take the shot, make sure that you're nice and steady and ready to take the shot at that point, you should be able to hit what you're aiming at. So we move on to how you would mount the rifle. With centerfire rifles that are going to have some felt recoil, making sure that the stock is firmly in your shoulder is essential. Failure to do so may result in discomfort or injury. The alignment of the rifle in your shoulder to your cheek and to the scope is imperative to make sure that you have a clear and crisp sight picture. Once you have the rifle mounted and you are steady, you can then apply a nice, gentle, even pressure to the trigger and then squeeze to let the shot off. Some longer distance shots will require you to control your breathing, usually inhaling, hold, squeeze and exhale on the squeeze of the shot. This is when your body will be at its absolute most still, and the sway of your body and its natural movement will be lessened at that point. This is good obviously for keeping your sight on the target, keeping the rifle aligned and making sure that the shot is released slow and smooth and without any jerky or sudden movements on the rifle to keep the sights and the rifle aligned with the target. If you have it tucked in tight enough, this also helps keep it steady and control the recoil, as mentioned earlier. The tight grip and keeping a nice clear sight picture, if you're comfortable with the rifle and you can manipulate it quickly, also means that any follow-up shots are also a possibility if that is required afterwards. So in summary, you would make sure that the rifle is securely mounted up into your shoulder, and this is the same for whether you would be standing, kneeling or in the prone position. Acquire your cheek weld so that you have your crisp and clear sight picture. Control your breathing and your heart rate, make sure that you are as steady as possible. Pressure onto the trigger, and then on the exhale, gentle squeeze and hold. And that should be the steadiest form of shooting. You should always try and acquire as much stability in your stance as you can to give you every chance of keeping the rifle and the scope steady and on target.
Thanks, Josh. Next, our new podcast is out. Chris Packham, heard of him, is trying to ban driven grouse shooting in Scotland through an outfit called Revive. It held a conference in Perth in November and a handful of brave local gamekeepers went along. I talked to 3 of the attendees from our side about what they think of the conference and where Revive is going next with its campaigning. Next, from grouse shooting to the wider world of hunting and shooting on YouTube, it's Hunting YouTube. This is Hunting YouTube, which aims to show the top hunting and shooting videos that YouTube has to offer. A crystal morning for Rough Shooting Ireland, which manages to meet up with 5 woodcock and about 40 deer, and all still in time to watch the Manchester United game. This is a pretty film about life and wildlife on a German estate, recommended by my German hunting magazine editor friend Nina Kruger. Thank you David from Predator Protection UK, who points me to this film of him shooting squirrels in a garden in the Oxfordshire area. I didn't know there is a squirrel rut. I do now. Ed Gunleashy is using pellet tracers to knock out greys. Staying in the States, Meat Eater Channel puts out a series called 1 Week in November. This is day 1. We're now on day 4. It's a celebration of autumn buck hunting. This channel specialises in vehicles suitable for the Canadian backlands, here using a Sherp to go moose hunting. There's a run of African safari films on YouTube this week, which gives me hope that big game hunters are still going there despite restrictions. J. Allen Smith is back in Africa with his 375 Ruger. He is after his biggest Cape buffalo yet. And finally, never know when this might come in handy, it's How to Catch a Wild Boar Japanese style with a simple spring-loaded leg-holding snare in Japanese with English subtitles and not necessarily legal wherever you live. That's it for this week. I've put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the I symbol top right or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you would like us to pop into the weekly top 8, email me the link, charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv. Well, that is it for this week. If you haven't done so already, please pop over to our website, fieldsportschannel.tv. You can click to like us there on Facebook and on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, pop your email address into our register page and we'll contact you about this show. Fieldsports Britain is out at 7 p.m. UK time every Wednesday. And this has been Fieldsports Britain. Good hunting, good shooting, good fishing, and goodbye.